How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a quick little how-to video for you on how to make a DIY crown race install tool. For some reason, crown race tools are really rather expensive. The Park Tool version, I know Park Tool can be overpriced, is like $110. And even the like no-name brand or, you know, lower level brand ones like Bike Hand or other kind of like mismatch of vowel ones from Amazon are like 40 bucks. And that's really a lot of money for what's ultimately just like an aluminum or steel pipe with a couple different adapters at the bottom to fit different sizes. That's all it really is a pipe that you bang with a hammer. I figured I'd show you how to make a much cheaper version which will work just as well if you don't want to splash the cash on one of the fancier real ones. So this entire little project cost me about $15 at Home Depot. You could actually do it a little bit cheaper online. When I saw other people doing something similar, they were like $5 at Home Depot. I don't know if PVC is like, there's some shortage or something, I don't know, but it was 15 bucks for me. But what you're gonna need is essentially 3 pieces of PVC, and that's it. So let's start off with the main thing. Jesus Christ. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna need is a 2-foot piece of 1.5 inch PVC. Black or white, doesn't matter. For metric, I believe it's 40 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. And just make sure it's 1.5 inches or 40 millimeters. Okay, this is what I got. It came in these pre-cut 2-foot pieces, so you don't have to buy the whole 10-foot piece and cut it down yourself. And this was like $5.50 for me at my Home Depot. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna need is 1.5 inch coupler. It looks like this. It's essentially just a piece to connect 2 1.5 inch pieces, right? So if you want to have another piece coming out here, you would use this to connect the two. The reason why you need this is that this is actually a little bit wider on the outside compared to the actual 1.5 inch tube. And why we want that is because of how crown races are made. So here's a crown race here, it's a Cane Creek one. Now for this one, I think I would be actually kind of okay with this smaller piece, but it's sort of riding on, like right on the edge of the inside here. The coupler kind of is a perfect fit around the outside. The coupler fits perfectly around the outside, whereas by comparison, just the PVC sort of sits on the inside and it could potentially damage the crown race. Now, crown races can be slightly different sizes based on the bearing that they're for. This is a crown race for a tapered headset, and so they're a little bit wider. And this is what I found works. You could potentially get away with just this, but this was the cheapest piece. I believe it was only about $1.50. And so depending on the crown race you have, you're probably gonna wanna at least get the coupler just to sort of see what works best. For me, I think the coupler works the best because it's gonna hit all the way around the outside, and it should sort of provide the most stable kind of hitting surface in order to push the crown race perfectly onto the fork. And then the final thing, and this is the sort of optional piece, you're gonna get a top cap. Now for some reason, this was more than the entire piece of PVC. This was like $6 and this was $5. So if you wanna just save $6, you could probably put a piece of wood over this or just try to hit it with a hammer, you know, straight on as best you can. This sort of ensures that you can hit straight down, right, with a hammer or a mallet or whatever, instead of trying to hit around the edges here, and that's sort of why I got it. But you could potentially forget this and just go with the PVC pipe and the coupler. I got all 3 because I think that makes it the most sort of complete tool. Again, $15 total, still much cheaper than any of the cheap options on Amazon or the more, you know, legit options from Park Tool and stuff like that. And so for 15 bucks, we have a tool that should work just fine. And because PVC is softer than any of the materials that you're dealing with here, right, the crown race and the steer tube, you're not gonna mar anything. This is gonna give or deform before this deforms or the fork steer tube deforms, because this is obviously a softer material. So this will allow you to install a crown race just fine. It's a nice length, and that's important because you can sort of get your hands out of the way, right? You don't want to have something really short where you got to put your hands right at the top and then you risk hitting your hands. And like I said, 15 bucks, not a big deal. It should have worked just fine with the coupler. You can sort of adapt it to different sizes. And if you even want to go smaller, you could go with a smaller PVC. So if you have like a 1-inch steer, you'd want something a little bit thinner. So you could get even just like a 1-inch PVC with a coupler for that, and that should work just fine. But this is what works for tapered steer tubes, PVC, crown race setting tool. Let me show you how it works. Okay, so here we have the fork. As you can see here, there is no crown race installed here. I'm just gonna make sure that this is all nice and clean over here. And this is looking just fine. Okay, so the crown race is gonna be installed this way. So you can see here, there are sort of like a side that's beveled down, and then a side that's sort of beveled up, and then this little rubber gasket right here, it sort of faces up. You want that facing up, so towards where your stem would be. And then this side, the all metallic side, is facing down. And so all we're gonna do is we're just gonna place this on the steer tube, and then we're gonna use our homemade PVC crown race setting tool, make sure it sort of fits all the way around it, give it a couple whacks with a mallet. We're gonna use a soft face mallet, and that should seat it properly. Okay, so I'm putting the crown race on, and I wanna make sure it's kind of as straight as possible, as far down as it goes. And it goes down just about to there. As you can see, we have about a finger's width or so of space left. We are then gonna take our PVC tool, should probably put it on the right way, like that. Okay, and now, again, we have our fork set up as such with our crown race tool right on top. I've got the fork sitting on the ground just to give it some sort of, stability. And then we're just gonna take our mallet and we're gonna make sure everything is seated straight, and we're gonna go and just start tapping it down. And it's gonna start moving down. So one thing to look out for is as you hit the crown race, obviously if it's a mountain bike fork, it's gonna compress, right? That's what mountain bike forks are supposed to do. So if you have adjustable compression that you can lock out essentially, or as much as you can lock it out, make sure to dial that in all the way to prevent the fork from essentially absorbing your hits from the hammer, making it harder to actually install the crown race. So I've got a little bit more to go, just gotta keep hitting it. And there we go. As you can see, the crown race is perfectly seated onto the steer tube. There is no gap whatsoever between the bottom of the crown race and the steer tube. You can sort of just take a look all the way around, make sure it's all nice and seated. As you saw, I did end up using it without the coupling, although the coupling would have worked as well. I just felt that I was able to get a little bit of a better purchase, but just to make sure it's fully seated, I am gonna give it just a few more taps with the coupling on, just to make sure that there are no gaps whatsoever. All right, so there you go. Crown race installed just fine with this DIY PVC tool. Cost us 15 bucks, which if you were planning on buying the Park Tool version, saved you $85, which you can now go and spend on, some new riding gear or some new components, or just pocket that money. But ultimately it works just the same as the real tool. It's, technically all made in USA actually, with all these PVC pieces, and it works. So quick little tip, if you are looking for a way to install a crown race and you don't want to wait for a tool, you don't want to take it to a shop, or you don't want to shell out the cash for the real tool, this will work perfectly fine. Cheap, effective, what else could you ask for? Hope the video is helpful. Thank you all for watching. Please consider dropping a like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Catch you guys in the next video.